Hey everybody, it's Alana Yvonne, and I am very excited to share a very brief introduction overview to what's probably the most important information I can share so far, and that is the Ten Commandments, which you may be rolling your eyes and like, what the hell do I need to know this for? Or why is that even relevant? It's so old. But at the time of this recording, the holiday of Shavuot, which in Judaism is when Moses received the Torah, we can just say the Ten Commandments, which included everything in them on Mount Sinai, okay, and brought heaven down to earth in one fashion or form or whatever. So we're living in these times where as we go through them, you'll be like, oh yeah, no one's really following that, or not a lot of people are following that, or not everyone is following that. And it's almost like we need to get back to basics because if you're awake to the world, you see that there's just a lot of chaos. A lot of chaos, a lot of destruction. Things are just kind of flipped, and we as individuals do have some power and some impact and some control over our own actions, right? What we do is what we can do. And if we do that informed by things that are true and good and helpful, then we can already start to make the world a better place. It doesn't have to be this whole big idea of like, we need to operate on the macro level. That is not what my site is about. That's not what my coaching is about. That is just not my jam. I focus on the micro. And the micro, as you know, the individual level will have ripple effect. You see that in your relationships, you see that with your families, you know intuitively what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to share is stuff that became personally relevant to me around 10 years ago, maybe a little more. And it was life-changing for me. And that is why I feel called to share a little bit about it. And I also made a parody video, which is a really easy way to learn them. Really, really easy way to learn them. I will include that in the comment section. So basically, what the heck are the Ten Commandments? Like, why do they matter? Why are they important? And it's basically like a mini blueprint or formula or structure or guidelines, instruction booklet for how we can interact nicely with each other and in our lives. That's just one way to put it, okay? And it's kind of like a foundation for societies and civilizations. And there's a reason why, at least in the Western world, we talk about Judeo-Christian values or Western values. And if already you're like, then this video isn't for you, and please like continue on your merry way to whatever is going to keep you in your echo chamber of what you believe is true. So if you're open to the idea of the Ten Commandments, if you're open to the idea of a moral code or ethical behavior or standards or lines that don't get crossed or certain things that can actually unite humanity regardless of your physical characteristics, religious characteristics, whatever, like wherever you live, wherever you are, whatever you claim as your belief system or your tribe, you know, if you're open to the idea of the Ten Commandments, which came down through the Jewish faith and then continued on and influenced the other religions of Islam and Christianity, if you're open to that, like, stay on in, this spur of the moment, seat of the pants video. Okay, so whether or not you believe in God, right? Whether or not you believe there's a God, if you wrestle with the idea of God, you struggle with it, you don't, that God can't be because X, Y, Z or whatever, let's just put that aside, because this is not the place to kind of go down that rabbit hole of, is there a God and why is there a God and what proof is there for God or not proof? And let's just say that for the sake of the video, let's be open to the idea that maybe there is a God, in case you're like, no, okay? Just the idea, because like with many of the things that I share with you, Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? So historically, obviously, a lot of horrible things have been done in the name of religion and God. So we're going to just put that aside for now. Listen to, what I'll share with an open mind towards, could this be helpful to me or not? And just let it sit with you. I invite you to let it sit with you. Because I have my own struggles with God, and I came to a place where I decided to engage with the idea of God and the divine and a creator, and it's made a huge difference in every aspect of my life. If you've seen any of my videos, you can see I am not like an Orthodox person. I am not a religious person. And one of the things that I would love for more people to explore is their own personal relationship with creator, divine, God, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Because I think that's where our personal rooting can come in and develop. And it's a process. It keeps evolving. Okay. So what are the 10 commandments? Why are there 2 tablets? Okay. The 10 commandments are split into 2 groups. The first 5 are about the relationship between people and God, divine, creator, source, whatever you want to call it. But for the sake of, it came from God. That's how we describe it. That's how it's described in the Tanakh. It's just, that's it. So the relationship between the, source and human beings. Okay. So that's the first 5. And then the second 5 are about our commandments for the relationship that people have with other people. It's about our interactions with other people. Okay, so that's the first 5 and the second 5. And I'll try to keep this really top level. It can get really complicated and or more detailed because there are parallels and stuff like that. But for simplicity's sake, what is the first commandment? Now, I know that it's written a little differently in some Christian sources that I've seen. I'm going with the Jewish sources that I know, okay? So the first one is, and I didn't write these out, but I have it in my head, and I'm not going to give you the Hebrew because I don't know it in Hebrew by heart. But the first one is like, I am the Lord your God that brought you out of constraints, limitations, Mitzrayim, translated as Egypt, but it comes from the word Mitzrayim, which is important because Meitzar is the root. Okay, I'm giving you a little Hebrew here, but Meitzar means limitations or constraints. So what the first commandment is saying is like a statement, okay? A statement like, this is what you got to know. I am the Lord your God who takes you out of limitation. I am the Lord your God. I am the creator. I am source. And it is me, not me, creator, who takes you out of constraints. And what this is saying is like, there is a divine being. There is a, supreme being, an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present being who takes us out of our personal Egypt and our collective Egypt, okay? So this is kind of like accept, or, if you accept that this is the premise through which the other commandments follow, then we're good. And this is basically establishing the point that you are not God. I am not God. Okay, that other person is not God. If an ultimate being, the ultimate higher power, to use 12 steps language, is a higher power that is not a human being, then that is the standard by which, we listen. Because what happens when we make people, if we think we're God, right? That's all ego. And all kinds of bad things come when people think that a person is God. I'm not talking about like in other religions where people, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like people, like if you think that someone else is, the authority, the ultimate authority that you need to live your life by. And God is saying like, I am the one. God is the one who brings you out of your personal constraints. I will end it there because this will be much longer and more. I'm trying to like hold back that faucet of where I want to go with this. So keeping it light. First commandment, I am the Lord your God who has taken you out of Egypt, your personal limitations, Mitzrayim. Okay. Okay, second one. And you'll see I'm going back to the song, the parody, which is how I know it, how my kids know it, how others have learned it, and I will share that with you. All right, so the second one is have no gods before me. You shall have no other gods before me. Now, false idols is not like, you know, what it was for much of the world thousands of years ago with, you know, stone idols or wood idols or, you know, a physical idol that, you know, you worship. An idol today, think of anything that you worship. Status, money, fame, right? Do you worship something? Popularity, I already said that. It could be a musician. It could be like, what is it that you, is it a material success, right? What is it that you are worshiping outside of yourself? And that's usually the material world, something in the material world that you are creating a god out of, almost, right? So for example, many people worship the idea of university, of let's say a degree from a certain caliber school. Okay, it's this idolization of what that can give you, right, within that, or within another organization, whatever it is. Okay, what are your false idols? What are the things that you are taking as an authority that you then make your decisions by? Okay, so the false idol idea is really exacerbated by social media. It's exacerbated, you know, in our culture where we are worshiping influencers. We're worshiping what we see out there. People are making decisions based on that desire, let's say, to be accepted. What are people worshiping that they're making decisions that may or may not be helpful? What is it? All right, so think of that in your own life. Think of examples that you know. Okay. Okay, don't take my name in vain. Number 3, don't take my name in vain. And what the heck does that mean? Does that mean like, oh my God? Is that what it means? I don't think so, right? It is on one level to take, you know, the idea of God seriously and to engage with it. But I tend to focus on the idea that this commandment is about don't do bad things in the name of your religion, in the name of God. Don't say this is God's will and do something that breaks all the other commandments. Okay. And yeah, let's just leave it at that. Okay. So 1, I am the Lord your God, who has taken you out of your limitations, out of your personal Egypt. 2, have no gods before me, no false idols. 3, don't take my name in vain. Don't be like going and doing stuff and saying that this is what God wants. Okay. Don't be doing that in vain, right? Unless you really know. And how do you know? Does it meet the criteria of the other commandments? Okay, so it's like a self-enclosed system of, you can cross-check. Okay. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is to remember Shabbat, the Sabbath, and keep it holy. Okay, so what this is about is, you know, the 6 days of creation and the 7th day of rest. It's important to take time to disconnect and to connect to what is spiritual, to connect to what is meaningful, to connect to things that have nothing to do with your accomplishments in the material level, in the material world. Because so much we identify through, like, another thing you could worship is like my career, you know, my job status, my promotion. Okay, you take that break and you remember, like, at core, or try to get in touch with, like, who are you without all the entrapment, like the trappings and the clothes and the labels and the whatever. Who are you? Who are you without, if you lost everything today, God forbid, if you lost everything today, who are you? And when you take that time to disconnect from all those things that you identify yourself with, you can go back to source within yourself. You can go back to like a soul-based place to reconnect to what really matters and to question, explore, study, learn, just disconnect. All right, so what does this mean if you're like, dude, I'm not a religious person, or I'm not a spiritual person? And I mean, I have this in my own family. Like, we're all very different. So what what a lot of people talk about now is like a tech Sabbath, right? A technology Shabbat, a breaking from technology, which is really hard for many of us today. But even if you were to like figure out a way, if that appeals to you, and separate from the phones and separate from the computers and separate from the screens, what would you do instead with your time? And it might be really uncomfortable, but could you read a book? I mean, does anyone read books anymore, especially younger ones, younger kids? Could you do a game? Like, could you go for a walk? Could you go for a hike? Could you go to do something fun? But so, remember the Shabbat and keep it holy, right? What does holy mean? It's from the word kadosh, which is to keep something separate, actually. Okay, so there's a separation here from the regular, from the mundane. What can you do to separate? And if it doesn't need to be on a Saturday or a Friday or a Sunday, whenever your Sabbath is, it can be just think about it, the idea of a separation and a differentiation to connect to, like, what the heck are we even doing here? What are we doing? Getting in touch more with the things that matter to you. Now, if this doesn't speak to you, that's okay. Could it be that maybe that's deliberate time spent with friends and family, right? And a reconnecting, if you're not like, I'm going to reconnect with the divine and source, reconnecting with friends and family, people and relationships that are meaningful for you. Okay. 1 second. All right, now here's a fun one. The 5th commandment is to honor your mother and father. It seems kind of self-explanatory, but let's go into it, right? So it doesn't say love your mother and father. There's plenty of people out there. There are plenty of us who are like, dude, they do not deserve my love. And that is for you to figure out, whatever you have. There's unfortunately many people with difficult relationships with their parents. It's deliberate that the commandment does not say you have to love them. It does not say you have to love your parents. It does say you have to honor them. What the heck does honor mean? Okay, that could be like a whole video series in its own. But basically, the idea is to appreciate those people through which you came into being, and to honor and respect that source of life that brought you here, regardless of putting aside any trauma, putting aside any difficulty, any, challenge in the relationship from which loving may be too hard. Okay? The idea is to honor and respect the fact that for whatever reason you came through those two people, or however that relationship is the vessel through which you came into being. Okay? And why is that on the side with God? Because God is the third partner in your birth. Obviously, this is predicated on the idea of like source and a soul. So if you're like, what the heck, then that's fine. But you just hear it out. This is what it is. The 5th one is God partners with the parents to create and bring down a soul into earth in a physical body. Okay? And therefore, for whatever reason, your parents were chosen to bring you here, to do whatever it is you are here to do. Okay? And because of that partnership with God, the God who brings you out of Egypt, that is why the parents, okay, the parents are the partners with God, whether or not they believe in God, whether or not they know it. That is how you came into being. And you have to respect that source of life, because they are the ones who give you the physical life. Okay? And when you don't honor your parents, you're dissing God. Because the idea is God chose those parents for you. Hard thing to swallow for many of us, I know. Okay? But there can be some comfort there if you do have a complicated or really like not great relationship with your parents for good reason. The idea of honoring, and you can, there's a lot in there of what does that mean to honor them. Okay, but just know that it doesn't mean you have to love them. Okay, so those 5 are on the side of relationship, human beings' relationship with the divine. Those 5. Human's relationship with God, with source, with creator, okay? With Hashem. That means the name in Hebrew. It's what a lot of us will say in describing God. Now we go to those other 5, okay? And I have to do it in my head again. Okay, number 6, this is a biggie. Number 6, which is the first one on that second column, is don't murder. Do not murder. And the word is specific to murder and not kill, even though you will see it translated as kill, which is a mistake, because self-defense, okay, where someone might get killed is not what we're talking about here. The commandment is do not murder, which means with intent to take away someone's life. Again, it is the value of life. It does not mean you do not fight, you do not defend yourself, you do not do what you have to do to keep sacred and whole your own life or whoever you're responsible for's life, okay? But to deliberately, with intention, go out and murder, that is what is being forbidden here. Okay, so that's 6. 7 is to be faithful. Do not commit adultery, to be faithful to your spouse. And this is about honoring and sanctifying and basically keeping the boundaries within sexual relationships, okay? So again, this is all about between people. So no murder, respecting the sanctity of life, even if you have a grievance, even if you have a difficulty, even if you have a, passionate reason that you're like, we just watched the Hitman movie and that was like, that's like murder central. Everyone's like, take the life, because it's all our ego thinking that we know best about if that person decides to live or it should live or not. Who the heck are any of us to decide that we know best if someone should live or not? This is obviously like a whole different discussion, but think about it. That's pretty arrogant. Okay? And murder is all about me, and it's not. Okay, and the same thing with, not to commit adultery. Right? To honor the boundaries of sexual relationships. So again, this is about like a loyalty and a commitment, and it's almost a different kind of covenant, right? Like, do not commit adultery, do not have an affair, do not, and that is about within the context of marriage, that is about respecting the boundary of that relationship. Okay, so again, these are all about the relationship between people and people. Okay, so again, in my head, here I go, because I don't have anything written down for this one. All right, 8 is don't steal. This is pretty like self-evident, right? Don't take that which isn't yours. Don't take that which you did not work for, earn, rightfully have a claim to. Do not steal. Okay, I think that's self-evident. 9 is don't lie. Okay, don't bear false witness. Okay, well, what does that mean? That's like, don't lie. Do not lie. Okay, and that is speaking to the value of truth. If you do not hold the value of truth, emet, you can lie. Heck, you can do everything, that the 10 Commandments are telling you not to, because you don't care about what is true. You care about some other value, some other idea. But if you value truth, then even if you're struggling with what that truth is, you shouldn't deliberately lie about something is not true. Okay? So, I feel like we've known this since we were kids, right? Don't lie, don't steal, don't take, that's not your toy, don't take that toy. Okay? Don't steal, don't lie. Okay, so again, from the beginning of the second is don't murder, be faithful to your spouse, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, and then the last one is don't covet, which basically means don't want something that isn't yours. And that has a lot to do with being grateful for what you have, being satisfied with what you have, being okay with what you have, not looking always at the Joneses and being like, I want, I want, I want. Not fair that they have, I don't have. Why do they have, I don't have? That's coveting other people's stuff, relationships, accomplishments, standing in life, their house, their spouse, their kids, their experience. And the whole point is you don't know what's going on in someone else's life, really. You don't really know what's going on in someone's relationship. You see the outside. You don't really know what's going on. It may look better. And even if it is better, it's still not yours. It's not your experience. And this ties into ideas that maybe I'll, discuss in another video of this idea of divine providence. Hashgacha pratit is what it's called in Hebrew. This idea of like, there is a reason why your life is your life the way it's been, right? And you have free will before you make a decision. Sorry, just check my desk. There's free will. And then after the fact, it's kind of like it was meant to be. And you got to just wait long enough in life for that perspective to stretch out, to maybe see, oh, now I know why that had to happen, right? And we can tell ourselves stories to give it meaning if we want, if we need to, about why it had to be. But that requires space from maybe a bad event, a difficult event. But the point is, and it's hard, super hard, right? We are insecure creatures with eyes always looking at what does someone else have, what is someone else experiencing, and that doesn't feel fair. I mean, you see this in kids, right? We're wired this way to look at like, what do I want? Why can't I have that? That's not fair. My God, I hear it with siblings, my kids, whatever. But as adults, we also have that. So all of these can be really difficult spiritual practices to implement and to learn about and to incorporate. But in any case, there's a reason they are given, because if you think about it, okay, just the last 5, the second set of don't murder, be faithful, okay? Don't steal, don't lie, don't want someone else's stuff. Like if everyone followed those, can you imagine what the world would be like? Wow. Wow. So that already is like a 5-step program. And then when you throw in the other 5 from the beginning, right? I am the Lord your God, this idea of God. Can you be open to the idea of God? Can you just, if you're curious about it, just start thinking about it, start researching it, learning, like just kind of explore. And if you're not, okay, but this is what it's predicated on, because if you don't predicate it on this idea that there is God, and it is God that takes you out of all of your constraints, then you will put other gods before the one true God, Hashem, whatever, because you're going to have false idols. And then, maybe you'll use, and then, all right, so you've got, I am the Lord your God who takes you out of your constraints. Okay. Don't have false idols, right? Don't take my name in vain. Don't be using God's name to do stuff that breaks all those last 5 we just talked about, right? Keep Shabbat, this idea of separation, connecting back to source, spiritually connecting, or if that doesn't speak to you, what is important for you and connecting to it away from your accomplishments, away from your work, away from your material showings, okay? Connect to what that part, start to explore and get to know that part of you that if everything else is lost, God forbid, who are you? And a lot of people just don't even want to go there because it's scary, right? I don't know who I am without my toys or my followers or my big house or my, whatever it is for you. Okay. Getting the source, where, who are you? Shabbat, taking a break, because we're busy during those other 6 days of work. Okay. And then that last one, honoring your parents. Okay. It doesn't say to love. You're not commanded to love. And then again, those other, okay, then the last 5, don't murder, be faithful to your spouse, respecting boundaries in sexual relationships. Don't steal, don't lie, don't want someone else's stuff. So those are the 10 commandments in brief. And I hope this was maybe a little thought-provoking. And of course, thank you, God, for the internet. You can go down lots of rabbit holes to kind of explore these and hear other explanations and interpretations. I'd love to know what you think. Something to think about, these 10 commandments, and then like, how do we bring them into our life? How do we teach them to those that we want them to know as well? Like, how do we, so for me to make sense of it, I go to parody at some point to get like ideas into clarity for myself. So even though what I just said was super not clear. So I wrote this parody as a way of really absorbing what I was learning about the 10 Commandments. And it's so simple. My kids get it, right? It's so simple. It's a 3-year-old can get it, really. So in any case, I wish you all, if you're celebrating, a wonderful Shavuot, and I will include the link in the comments and let me know what you think. Thank you.